That was dirty and mean. That's what's coming up on The Art of Bombing, episode 265.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to a brand new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. It is me, the host, Dan Bublich Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, co-producer, and cohort, Josh Shirley. How you doing, Josh?
Dude, solid. I went to a mic last night, and the host, so I thought it was going to be late, right? You know, list goes up around 8, show starts at 8. Like, list goes out at 7:30, show starts at 8. I showed up at like 8:05 thinking, oh man, all right, I'm going to just add my name to the bottom of the list. That's as soon as I could get there because I have kids and all that. So I get there, and no one, like, the comics are there, but no one's performing. And they're all kind of looking at their phones. And I'm like, what's going on? Are we doing it on the patio tonight? Went out to the patio. No one's there. Came back inside. What's going on, guys? So the host isn't here. His car broke down. He can't get here. He needs an Uber. We're trying to, you know, do a Kickstarter to get enough money to get this guy here. Where I'm like, okay. All the equipment like isn't set up, but there's a mic speaker stand and all the cords like sitting there. I'm like, we've got all the pieces, guys. We got a bar. Like, what am I not seeing? Like, is there like a trap door that opens every time somebody tries to put the stuff together up here? They're like, nah, we're just too lazy to do it. And I was like, all right. So me and a couple of other comics got everything together, and I hosted the mic. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm starting us, and we're going to go. And if the guy doesn't come, he doesn't come, but we're doing comedy right now. And, you know, a couple other guys like got a list together and made the list.
That's awesome. That's like a team effort right there that you got going on, you know, and I think why not? I mean, you're right. That's one thing we talk a lot about on this podcast is having these skills and capabilities. And that's where, you know, not just like for comedy, but as a producer, having those skills, like knowing how, even if you don't own a PA or a sound system, you should know how to operate one. You should know how to set one up. You should know all these things for situations like this, because then you can just come in and step up, and then now you're a hero because the mic went on. It wasn't a situation where it got canceled.
You know, I had some difficulty turning, getting like the mic stand upright and, you know, like fitting the right. I had a bunch of microphones and different cords, and I had to pair that all up just right to get everything to fit together. Had a few trials and errors, but we got it stood up and got the mic going. The host never showed up. He might be dead. I still haven't gotten an update on where he is. But
hopefully next week you'll be able to give us an update on the host.
Right. So, yeah, man, got a mic kicked off last night. I hosted my first open mic in about 6 years.
And so now it's your open mic, right? That's how it works, right? It's like Highlander. There can only be one host.
Yes, the heads have been cut off. I've risen to the top.
You come in, you step up, you take over. It's yours now. That's how it works.
I now host an open mic in
bogarted your way
on Monday nights on Kansas City, Kansas, because I took charge. I'm going to turn it around. It's going to be, you're going to hear about it. You're going to read about it on the internets.
That's amazing. That's great. Congratulations on that, on being the hero. I mean, that is, again, going back to what we were saying before, it is important to know that stuff. Because otherwise, all those people, because the host never showed up, if nobody would have took initiative, all those comics show up for nothing. And now they at least got to do some time. The venue, what did the venue say about it? How did they respond?
They were fine. I had been there several times. It was just a bartender, and I knew her.
Yeah, but I mean, they were probably grateful that you were able to do it, or were they?
Yeah, I think so.
Or were they like, oh, damn, somebody got us?
A couple of times, a few people wandered in and saw the show. Like, it wasn't like, it didn't exactly like, they're like, somehow we had a great February. Like, they're not going to be saying that. But,
fair enough.
But still, it was, they were appreciative of it and all of that. So, yeah, all good.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, it sounds like you had a good time. I've been kind of trying to go to more comedy, and there's something that I wanted to bring up on this is I went to a showcase. It was an audition for something, and it was a showcase style show. And one thing that I found interesting as I was watching the show, because I knew it was like an audition, was the choices that comedians were making for their sets, when and I found it interesting because I feel like we as comedians don't consider those things. Like when we're auditioning for different things, we just assume, we just need to do our best 5 or whatever, and that's true. You want to do your best 5, but what are some of the choices that you're making when you're putting that 5 or 6 minutes together? Do you because you also have to consider what these people might be looking for too. It isn't always go into your comedy or maybe your favorite bit that you're doing. You should probably maybe do a little bit of research on like who's getting selected for these things and kind of see what kind of material or not even material necessarily, but stage presence and them, all kinds of things. The material, the stage presence, the originality, all that stuff. You should, we got to consider when putting together these auditions.
I haven't done a comedy interview before, or a comedy audition before. But my mind goes to, crafting a set and fitting it to the situation. You got your own goals to think about. Like, what do I want to accomplish on this show? Do I want to try some new things out and get better? Yes. Is this a paying crowd? And if so, I can't guinea pig them on untested material for the whole thing. I've got to put some things together that are going to give them a good quality show. What order am I going in?
Mm-hmm.
Am I in the middle? Am I at the end? Am I at the beginning? So all those kind of pieces would play out in that scenario. But for an audition, it's, that's great because you obviously want to make it about you because that's your audition and you want to introduce yourself to the people conducting it.
Yeah. And I think too, one thing I noticed too is I've seen people do like crowd work on those kinds of things on auditions for stuff. And I'm just like, I don't like, it's good to have like crowd, you want to show some crowd interaction, I guess. But at the same time, when it comes to like an audition like that, they're not looking for comics who can do crowd work. They're looking for comics who, they want to know you and your material, not how you interact with the crowd. But that's just me. It was just something interesting that I've, kind of found as an audience member. I went into festival producer mode or, booker mode, and I was like, oh, these choices are interesting.
Yeah.
So wanted to talk about it a little bit. We have some other exciting news that we should talk about. Before we get to that exciting news, we should just mention we have a great episode today. We have Mike Cotayo on the show today, another comedian from New Jersey. There we go, from New Jersey. So I'm excited about that. That's going to be. It was a good conversation. I think it's funny that we got 2 people from New Jersey back to back.
Yeah, two Jersey people. Yeah, it sounds like Mike's a little closer to New York than our last guest, who was more out on the Jersey Shore area.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what's coming up on the show. We got to get better at highlighting that at the beginning of the show and not like in the middle of the intro, but here we are. Here we are. But the good news that I want to talk about is this. I want to say thank you to all the people that are listening to this podcast worldwide. Now, not just in the U.S., but worldwide. This week, The Art of Bombing made the top 100 for stand-up comedy in the charts. We're in the top 100 charts. Top 100 for stand-up comedy in 10 different markets. That's right, 10 different countries. We are in the top 100 for the stand-up comedy for this last week. Those countries include the United States, which I would hope that we're getting some people listening to the podcast here since this is where we're based. But some other countries that I'm just surprised by where people listening to this, because I think you'll be surprised by where we're in the top 100. There's a couple on here I never even heard of. I didn't know it existed. But here we go. We're in the top 100 in the United States, Switzerland, Belgium, Singapore, Colombia, Malaysia, Croatia, the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, and Malawi. Malawi?
Okay.
I don't know if that's
I don't know. Is that like another planet?
It's Malawi. Maui. Malawi. I have no idea how to say. I did not say that right. I don't even know where that is. I've never heard of that.
To everybody listening there, thank you, because we're charting, baby. We're on the charts.
Yeah, whoever's listening there, thank you. Because you put us in, and actually we're number 2. We're number 2 there.
We Art of Bombing live in Malawi, baby.
That's
as soon as we figure out where that is, we're coming.
Yeah, last week
we're doing a live show.
We dropped a spot though. We were number 1. Now we're number 2.
Off.
Somebody knocked us off over there.
All right.
But no, I thought that was really cool. I just wanted to say thank you to all the people worldwide that are tuning in every week and listening to the Art of Bombing. And thank you. Just keep doing it. We appreciate it. The best way to support our show is to subscribe and share our content wherever you're at. If you're watching us on YouTube, share our videos on YouTube. If you're listening, if you see our link on Facebook, share the link. If you're on Twitter, share, retweet our tweets. It all helps. We really appreciate everything you guys do. If you want to support us financially, you can do that as well. You can make a one-time donation. I think you can even make a monthly contribution if you want, but you can make a one-time donation over by buying us a coffee. You go to buymeacoffee.com/AOBpod. You can, throw a little bit of money in the coffee pot and help me and Josh get our energy so we can keep doing these podcasts.
That's right.
Buy us a juice.
Buy us a coffee, and you get to fire me from the show. Like, whoever buys us a coffee. Like, you can get on Facebook and tell me that I'm fired, and I'll be fired from the show for a day.
Yes. And we should set it up so they can call in and say you're fired. And then they can tip, call in, and then we'll play it on air.
Nice. I love it.
That'd be a great way to do that. But again, thank you guys so much for listening. I think we should get into this episode. There's a lot of great. It was a great conversation. So here's our conversation with Mike Cotayo. Enjoy.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
And I walked in to this pizzeria to meet my date, and she didn't tell anyone she was disabled either. She had the exact same disability as me, but on the opposite side. I went up to her, I'm like, oh my God, you complete me. It's amazing. Our kids might stand a chance.
It's the art of bombing.
Great, I can get naked then. I'm ready.
You can. I don't know that I would enjoy that, but but you're more than welcome to take your clothes off. We can get all freaky up in here. Yeah. I'd like to say that's not the first time clothes coming off in comedy wasn't a mix.
Oh, I got a great story about that if you want it.
Oh yeah, we can definitely get into that. Did you perform at all this week? Did you have any shows over the last weekend?
I've been working on booking the road for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been getting out. I've just been contacting and writing up stuff and working on my merchandising store and all of the behind the scenes shit.
Yeah, which is very, very important in our business.
Yeah.
For sure.
You do comedy as well?
Oh yeah, I'm a comedian. Yep.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, I've been doing stand up for roughly just over 12 years. So
okay.
Yeah,
you do the road a lot?
I do the road a lot. In fact, what I was doing, at 2 today is I just finally decided to convert to LLC.
Okay.
So I did that all last week, and I just went and set up my new checking account for my new LLC today. So
Ooh, you're fancy.
I'm getting all fancy.
Mr. Businessman.
Trying to be. But yeah, so like I said, I set up my LLC, doing the behind the scenes stuff. I've been kind of myself not doing as much on the road because I'm trying to do more corporate, and I just moved to Colorado last year, so I'm trying to do more local stuff.
I'll be in Colorado in May.
Awesome. Where are you going to be in May?
Eagle County.
Eagle County. Do you know where you're playing?
It's a private event.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
It's a corporate keynote and then a comedy show.
Okay.
So, I know it's in Colorado.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't know all the areas yet, so.
Where are you in Colorado?
I live in Loveland, Colorado, so I'm just outside of Fort Collins, about an hour north of Denver.
Nice.
So,
all right.
Yeah, it's a nice little area. I like it out here. It's very nice and quiet. It feels like a big city, but also feels like a small town, so it's good. And I'm right close to Denver, so can always go down there. Now, you do a lot of corporate stuff. How does that work for you, like combining doing keynote speaking and then comedy shows?
I love comedy. Like, corporate pays well, but my heart is in making people laugh and telling dick jokes.
Which you can't really do when you're doing corporate comedy.
You have to call them Peter jokes. Or Richard jokes.
Yep, gotta change that name up a little bit.
yeah. So I don't mind corporate because I have room to be funny, but it's not the same as just doing a bunch of crowd work, which is what I love.
So you do a lot of crowd work when you perform?
Yeah. Are we taping already or no?
Oh, yeah, I already said, we were recording.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
That's why I gave you that warning up front that when I say I'm going to hit record, I'm just going to start talking to you. And that's what I did.
I do a lot of crowd work. That's like, if I why I fucking hate my jokes. Like, I once did a joke at a show and no one laughed, and I got pissed. I go, yeah, I didn't laugh either. You know why? I've done this joke 3,892 times. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
That's why I hate doing my job. And all the comedians started laughing in the room because we all get it. You have to make it sound like it's the first thing you came up with first time. And who wants to do that 5 times a week?
That's for sure. I mean, there's some people that are really good. I'm not so good at crowd work. I would rather do my written material, but I'm also always trying to evolve my material and, work on writing new stuff or changing it up. So it's not always the same. I don't think I ever tell the joke the same way twice, not almost word for word. I mean, something will change, whether it's my delivery or, something with it kind of changes. I mean, it'll have the same, the basic principle, but...
About year 3 or 4, I discovered a cadence that really worked for me. It was like, and my voice just goes up and down, and that really it helps the rhythm of jokes. And I've learned how to write in that rhythm. It's really weird.
Yeah, I've talked to other people who talk about writing with a rhythm, and that's interesting. Especially when you're building like an hour, and to do that, to have that rhythm. You have your ups and downs with that, and
the rhythm is gonna get you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, and it's interesting to be able to do that. Like I'll have like a flow to my set. However much time I'm doing, but I don't think I write to a rhythm. I just kind of write jokes and try to fit them in where I can, where they seem to fit the best, wherever that may be within my set. Now, you're based in New York? Is that correct?
Yeah, I live in New Jersey, but
okay.
I came up in New York. I came up in New York. I got my feet grounded in New York, wet and grounded.
Mm-hmm.
So. I was raised in New York, so I consider myself a New Yorker. It's just I married someone who lives in Jersey.
See how that was your escape out of the city, right?
Yeah.
Although,
and she's like, you hate living in Jersey, don't you? I'm like, not my favorite. I was involved in a hit and run today. That wouldn't happen in the city.
Oh wow. That's not good. Hopefully that was not, hopefully nobody got seriously hurt or anything.
You know what? I'm a bad driver, but this time it wasn't my fault. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Got to look at the positives in things. Well, let's get into this. So this podcast is about bombing. I love hearing stories about bombing. You've been doing comedy a long time. You do a lot of corporate. Like you said, you're a keynote speaker and comedy. You've probably got a lot of stories, but let's hear one of your favorite stories about bombing.
Oh, my God. When you're doing that 30-minute or 45-minute set and the first joke doesn't get off and you're just like, oh, shit, I can't do this anymore. And you just start blubbering the lines and your rhythm gets all off. And now I don't even think of it as bombing, but like if you have a bad set, you're like, it wasn't as like once you get comfortable with not doing amazingly well every time, then bombing the level at which you bomb changes.
Oh, absolutely.
So like a really good example of me bombing was getting booed off at the Apollo was a really good
wow
of me bombing. I won the first time I went, and then the second time I went, I got booed off when I had to go back to challenge. But even that was awesome because it's the Apollo. I got to say I won the Apollo and I got booed off at the Apollo.
Best of both worlds.
Exactly. That's how I say it.
So with that, going into that, getting booed off, do you know kind of what happened? Like, what were the circumstances?
Oh, yeah. So I said I like fried chicken, and apparently you can't be white and like fried chicken at the Apollo. So somebody started booing, and I took a beat too long. And if I would have just kept on going, I could have won them back. But, I was also 24 at the time. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't doing comedy professionally yet. And so I was a newer comic, and I didn't have the wherewithal to get out and go at it. Mm-hmm. But I was even ad-libbing at that time, which is crowd work essentially. So
yeah, and it is. I mean, that is something with comedy that you quickly learn that over time you build those skills. You look back at your career, any comic for that matter, and you can look back at a time when you bombed, and you think, and you look at it in retrospect, and it's like, oh, if I knew what I know now, then that would not have happened, or it may have happened, but it wouldn't have been as bad as it was.
I also have huge regrets. And regrets don't do anything for you because like a lot of people who are really well known or famous now were people I came up with, like Michelle Buteau, Gina Brion, Baron Vaughn, um, uh, what's her name on Night Court? She was on Big Bang Theory. Melissa Rauch. Those are all contemporaries of mine, and like I, if I didn't stop, I would have been at that level.
Mm-hmm.
But like self doubt really can cripple you.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. So
oh, absolutely. Especially with when it comes to like bombing and and having all those negative feelings, it just like puts that weight on your shoulder, and it's hard to keep wanting to go forward.
You know what's funny is every time I bombed, I was like, "Oh, I gotta get back up to shake this off."
Yep.
It was like I felt like a dirty little boy, like like the scoutmaster touched me, and to relieve that feeling, all I had to do was get back on stage.
Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it makes it worse. I've had nights where I bombed at a mic or whatever, and that was before. Now I don't consider bombing at mics. It's I'm doing stuff, but in my early days, I thought, if I bombed at an open mic or whatever, it was a bomb. But I bombed at an open mic and then went to another one, same thing, tried for 3, same thing. And I was like, all right, tonight's not my night.
That's always the way, right?
Tonight is not my night. Now, going into the transition from, comedy to public speaking or the keynote speaking, how did you kind of go into that, and what kind of led to that? I'm just kind of curious, because I'm actually looking at that now. I'm trying to do more corporate stuff. I've done a lot of corporate, but at some point I wouldn't mind doing the speaking part of it as well. So I'm really curious about that.
I started working with, so I have a physical disability. So I got hooked up with people who were in the disability world. And they just asked me, hey, could you give a talk on what it's like to be disabled and to deal with this? And so I did like 5 or 6 of them for like $100 a pop. And then like I started to market it and better present it. And then it became a thing. Mm-hmm. And I still wouldn't say I get a lot of keynote gigs, but 1 is better than none and 7 is better than 1. And so it's just a snowball effect.
No, absolutely. And because you were as we were kind of leading into the conversation, we were talking about the behind the scenes stuff. You were saying you've been spending the last couple of weeks working on booking out the rest of the year. How's that going for you? And how do you try to manage your time when it comes to that?
Dude, I am the worst. Like I'm like ADD. I'm like ADD personified. Like I'll like I have thoughts in the middle of the day, and I'm like, if I don't write this down, I will lose it. So I open up my phone. Phones are the best thing for people with ADD. You into it, or you could open it up, or hey Siri, write me a note. My phone's acting up now. So you just have to do any of that, and then you got it down. But like so I'll get up in the morning and I will get coffee, and then I'll sit on TV.
I just go sit on the TV.
I sit on the TV. It's a flat screen, so my ass hurts for a while. But I sit on the couch and watch TV for like a half hour, an hour. Take my kids to school, and then I come back and I sit down in front of my computer and I iron out what I want to do for the day. And like, I have the hardest time sending out emails. Like in my head, no one wants to hear from me. So I'm like,
that's relatable. I feel like that's a lot of comics. We're all like, I hate
that's
doing
a bomb in itself. Let's talk about like not bombing on stage, but bombing in your sending out emails.
Oh, absolutely. That's a true statement. That is, you're bombing your career when you don't do that.
Right. So, like right after the pandemic, I started doing open mics in Jersey to get my feet wet and to Like, just get back out there. And the open micers were really impressed with how good I was because I've been doing this a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I did a few open mics at this place called the Comedy Cove in New Jersey. And then after about 7 or 8 times of being there, I went up to the booker and said, "Hey, I'd love to be booked." And he, in his limited mind, meanwhile, I was killing at midnight in front of a room of 5 comics, which for the listeners is very hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
Comics hate laughing.
Oh, absolutely. Killing in front of any amount of comics is a pretty good feat.
Right. So the manager said to me, we're booked up for the rest of the year. This was in September, right? I'm like, okay, so can I resubmit? He goes, well, no, but you always have the open mic. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, fuck you. I'm never coming back to this place. And like, I had a friend of mine, Vince August. I don't know if you know.
I don't know that. No, not familiar.
He's a comic in New York, New Jersey, and he was the warm-up comic for The Daily Show. So he sent the guy an email kind of talking me up, and then he still wouldn't book me. So I got pissed.
It's amazing
and
how
then I shot him.
and
then I shot him.
And now you
dead.
own the club.
Now I run this bitches.
Now I'm the gatekeeper. But it is amazing how that, you know, it's so hard with the booking because you never know. Like, comedy's subjective, so you know, right. That's the thing about it. And every booker is a little bit different in what they're looking for their establishment. And it's so hard to, even with having people refer you, sometimes that isn't enough, it seems like, which makes it really hard.
So I would love to have you on my podcast, but this is an aside. Like, I have a podcast called Comics Unchained where we talk about the jokes we can't tell anymore because of woke culture. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so there's a point to me saying that. So I tried to get on, a friend of mine recommended me to this booker who books country clubs across the states. And so I sent him an email and he wrote me back. He's like, I listened to your podcast. You're kind of dirty. I don't think you're the type we want for our crowds. And I was like, okay, fuck you. I didn't say that, but
but you were thinking it.
I was thinking that. And my friend, this is how you know you've got a good friend. He said to me yesterday, he's like, you know what? I thought about writing him and telling him, like, you're funnier than X. I'm not going to name the comic, but I'm like, really? You think, first of all, you think I'm funnier than him? And second of all, thank you. That's really sweet. He's like, of course. And he goes, here's what I'll do. I'll even tell him if you don't like how his act is, I'll refund whatever you pay him. I'm like, that's a good friend.
That's a really good friend. I need friends like that.
Right?
We all need friends like that.
He sent the email and then he sent another one which said, you know what, Scott? I'll do one better. I'll pay you double if you don't like. I'll pay you double back if Mike bombs. I'm like, holy shit, now all this pressure's on
That's a
me.
lot of pressure. Almost too much pressure.
Right? Do
you find that happens a lot with, you know, because you do work corporate and you do that, the keynote speaking and stuff, but even though, you know, and a lot of that's clean, but comedy in general, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of different types of comedy. Right. And, you know, especially with your other things. Like, I'm primarily a clean comedian. That's what I've been known for. But on this podcast, you know, when I'm off stage, I swear like a sailor. You want to censor me? Put me in front of a microphone. You know, that's how I get censored. But otherwise, even on the podcast, you know, I'll talk about certain subjects and I'll swear and use profanity. I am not clean. You know what I mean? Like, right. And I sometimes wonder how, you know, are people going to go listen to my podcast when they're thinking about booking me? but shouldn't all my other, like, not necessarily accolades, but like previous clients be able to say, hey, look, I do this professionally for a living. Yeah, on this particular platform, I swear, talk about other things in comedy, but when I'm doing my job, I'm professional about my job. And here's my proof.
Was that hard for you? Did you start comedy going, I'm not going to curse?
No, absolutely not. I had when I started comedy in a small market, very small market. I started in South Dakota, where there wasn't really a scene. I mean, there was a little bit of a scene, but not what you think of like a scene to be when you compare it to New York or Denver or Chicago or LA, that kind of thing. And there wasn't even a lot of I didn't have access to a lot of live stand-up comedy. So for me, all I knew about comedy is what I saw on TV. That was my mindset. Obviously, live comedy is not what you see on TV. Totally different thing. But that being said, because of that, I didn't have, to me, comedy is what I saw on TV. So I just did jokes about whatever. I had terrible jokes. And when I say terrible, I mean both as they were terrible and also terrible. I probably shouldn't have been saying some of that stuff. But I was very fortunate because about 6 to 8 months after I started comedy, I moved out to San Diego, and that's where I spent my formative years. And I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I got to work with a production company that primarily produced clean shows because they worked in coffee shops and things like that. So they did a very good job of mentoring and fostering the talent that they used, because you had to audition and everything. They wouldn't just book you, so you had to do a live audition. So they did good at mentoring, so they kind of put that in my head to just kind of work clean, and then I just naturally started trying to write clean.
That's awesome. A friend of mine, she was one of the finalists in America's Got Talent last year, and I said to her, I saw her perform, and I go, when did you get so clean? She's like, at some point I realized if I wanted to do TV, I had to write all my material TV clean.
Oh, yep,
and
absolutely.
She's done a lot of TV, so.
Well, that's good. Well, and that's one thing I think for comics, it's good to have all of these tools in your toolbox, because there are going to be times when you need to push the edge a little bit. And I mean, and I guess if you're a Christian comedian and you don't, want to do profanity at all, that's your prerogative. But I always feel like being able to really push the line and work clean and have all the tools is great, because I've had lots of experiences where I'm doing comedy in a bar and I'll be doing my normal act. And a lot of times now I've got to the point where my act does fine in just a regular bar. But early on, I could see that I'm losing this audience. I got to go a little dirty.
Yeah.
I got to give them what they want.
What's funny? If I do a bar show and there's a wireless mic, I will work that crowd by walking around. The hosts love it. They're like, this is nuts. I was once in a restaurant doing a restaurant show, and I ran with the mic over to a table and just sat down and go, what's going on, guys?
Just join them for dinner.
Yeah. You eating the breadstick?
Can I have one? And you just take a breadstick and then leave. Could have got real tacky with it. Pick up the breadstick, act like that's the microphone.
Is this thing on? How come? Can you?
Definitely can have a lot of fun with the old wireless microphones.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. I also realized I gotta start miking every show I do, because the sound quality is awful.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean for when you do your corporate stuff, or?
I mean comedy, corporate, anything really. Yeah. It's not coming through, and that's part of the problem. Is if you don't if you're not ready on every set, you're not gonna get the bookings, and you're gonna bomb
Oh yeah,
with your
absolutely.
career. Yeah. So
Yeah, but I mean, there's only so much performer can do about sound. I mean, you can't control it in every scenario. That's the unfortunate part. You know, with corporate, you can try to do your best because you can say these are my requirements. If I don't have these, you're breaching your contract. But when you work at a club, you just have to be reliant on what they've got going on at the club.
Have you thought about what you want to talk about for corporate? Like, is there a specialty you want to talk about, or
for the speaking part of it? And I'm working on it now because I'm working on a TED Talk. I want to talk about basically what this podcast is, the art of bombing, and our tagline is finding success through failure. And that's what I want to talk about, is that, something that I've learned over the years doing this podcast is that failure is essential to success. A lot of times when you have success, people just try to repeat it. And, if they get lucky with it or whatever, they try to replicate that over and over. And eventually that just peters out. But if you want to continually get better and grow, you have to really analyze your mistakes and failures.
I people won't understand, but I love bombing for the simple fact of I learned so much about myself as a performer.
Mm-hmm.
If you really look at what happens that made you not do well, you'll learn so much if you're not stuck in your own ego of like, that audience sucked. No, it wasn't the audience, it was you. Let's talk about what you did wrong, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too. I mean, with that, you have to have that awareness at some point, you learn so much more about, what you can do to improve. And I've got to the point, I don't know how it is for you with comedy, but I've got to the point now, if I bomb on a show, usually when I'm walking off the stage, I don't even have to go back and listen to the recording. I know where I messed up. Like, it's already in my head. Like, I'll know, I use this as an example. I went to an open mic at one of the local comedy clubs. The audience was really weird that night. They weren't giving, any of the comics anything really. And I went up there and I immediately scolded them, but I didn't do it in a fun way. I came off as a mad dad, essentially. And I totally lost the eye. I bombed. And I knew as soon as I got off stage, I was like, yeah, I was way too aggressive right out of the gate with that. I should have handled that a little differently.
I usually try to make people feel like they're in on the joke with me. Yeah. And like that will save me from being a dick.
Yeah. And I suppose that does help a lot when you bring them in, because it's a good way to bring a crowd in too, to help them feel like they're part of the show. Because essentially that's the same thing with doing crowd work. It brings the audience into the show, and every audience kind of wants to have their own experience, and that's what they want. They want to leave with an experience that they know only they got, and those are things that you can do.
I did a show in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and the crowd was the comics were doing awful. Like, every comic was doing terrible. So much so that when the host came up to me, he goes, "How do you want me to introduce you?" And I'm sorry for what you're about to go through. I'm like, don't worry about it, man. And like, the thing was, I was reading the room before I got up there. I'm like, what is going on with this crowd that they're not connecting with the comics? And I realized what it was. There was one table, about 5 or 6 ladies, who just wanted to be picked on. Like, you ever see that type of crowd where they just want to be picked on, they want to be told off. So I and it was them and 2 other tables. It was at a restaurant, 2 other tables and them. And so I got up there. I said hello to everyone. I turned to the 2 tables. I go, "Hi, how are you? Please forgive me. I'm going to ignore you for the rest of my set." And then I went up to the table and I go, "All right, ladies, what the fuck is wrong with you?" And I sat down in a chair. I'm like, "Tell me, why are you being like this?" And they started eating it up just because they wanted someone to interact with.
Yep. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. I feel like because there's a lot of comics put out crowd working videos now, it either goes 2 ways.
Mm-hmm.
You get these people that, for one, it's hard to fill the front row because nobody wants to sit in the front row anymore because they're afraid they'll get picked on. Or you get these people that are coming because they want to be part of the show and they're hoping they're going to get picked on. And if they don't, they try to like interject their way in. And then you get those, heckling and whatnot. Which
it's all about having fun.
Oh, it is.
It's all about that's my rule. If you're not having fun, why doing it? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, and that's a good rule to have because so many comics you get wrapped up in not, in everything else. You forget to have fun, and at the end of the day, that's what you need to be. You need to have fun. Like all those other things do matter to keep moving and going upward in a career, but you still gotta like, this is supposed to be fun. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's not overdo it.
I wrecked a car of mine and it was undrivable for a while. Like I said, bad driver. And so I had someone driving me around to gigs for a while, and he would do a set, and like he was a newer comic and I was the wise old crone. And he goes, he did a set one night and he just had a bad set. And he's like, "What did you and he was in his head on the drive back or drive to the next show. And he's like, "Well, what was it? What was it?" I go, "Can I give you my thoughts?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It did not look like you were having fun up there." And I'm like, "If you're not having fun, why are you getting up there?" And it clicks for him. And like every set after that, he went up with the intention of having fun, and it totally changed for him.
Yeah, and I can see that. I've had to have that pointed out to me too, where I had a comic buddy of mine pointed out to me that if I'm in a bad mood and I go perform, it shows when I'm on stage.
Right.
It carries with you. And then again, you're not having fun. You're not, the crowd's not going to have fun because they can feel your energy. And
oh, totally.
And if they can feel that you're having fun, they're going to have fun too. Now, go ahead.
It's such a weird job, right? We have to go up there no matter what our mood and get into this place of joviality.
Yep.
Is that even a word?
I don't know, but but I know what you're saying. I know what it means.
Yeah.
I know the point you're trying to make.
Exactly. We have to get into this mood of, hey, we're going to make you laugh. I'm the clown.
Yeah, watch me dance. I got this. I got the goods. Now, after you have a set where it doesn't go, if you say you bombed or just, even if it wasn't a total bomb, but it just wasn't as good as you thought it could be, how do you analyze your show afterwards to try to figure out what happened and how you can prevent it next time?
Well, you mentioned it earlier. You were like, when you're performing, you're at the point where you even think, okay, I'm doing this wrong, or I'm doing this wrong. So like when I'm on stage, my brain is in 4 modes all at once. It's thinking of the joke I'm saying. It's making sure I remember the words in order. If I say a word out of place, I'm thinking, okay, that didn't work, or that worked way better. Remember that for next time. And then I'm thinking about, did the crowd like this joke or not? Do I have to pivot? Do I, and I had such a bad show a few weeks ago where it was a bar show, and I ended up making this woman cry. And I felt horrible about myself as a human being.
As you should. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm being hasty there. Maybe that's not the case. I don't know what she did first.
No, it was not. It was not. Like, I was just rambling at some point, and I was a drug addict, and I talked about being a drug addict, and this woman, I go, yeah, your teeth look like you're a drug addict. You have drug addict teeth. And then, like, I felt horrible. I felt so terrible. And I tried to apologize, and I went outside. Like, I tried to apologize, and she wouldn't accept my apology. And I went outside, and she was crying so hard.
Man.
And I felt like such a douchebag. Because the one thing is, I do this to help people feel better. I don't ever want to make them feel worse. Like, there's some comics who take joy out of putting people in their place. I'm not one of those guys. But she was a little drunk, so I think if she was a little more sober, she wouldn't have gotten to that point. I would have even let her punch me. Like, you could hit me. I don't have a breakable jaw.
You're like, I deserve it.
Yeah. Threaten me with a good time, baby. Come here.
Knock me out.
I boxed. I know how it works.
Yeah, that's it's interesting too, because you never know. Like, that's the other thing with comedy is we don't know. When we go up on stage and we're performing and telling our jokes, the slightest thing can set somebody off, and that's because they might be hypersensitive to whatever that was because they experienced it, maybe even recently or in their life or whatever. Because when we go up there not knowing how anybody's life is. We don't know what they're coming to escape from, and it's awful. I told, like, I did years ago in 2005, 2006. I told, like, this woman was at the Laugh Factory for a bachelorette party. And I said, oh, somebody getting married. When are you getting married? And she goes, on Tuesday. I go, Tuesday? Who gets married on a Tuesday? What, are you Jewish? And, like, as soon as I said that, like, all the sadness entered the room. And I felt horrible. Like, I hate making people upset, and so you know. No, absolutely. I mean, it is. I mean, especially when we go, our job is to make them feel the opposite.
Right. The rest of the crowd loved it, but that table, not so much.
Yeah, but you also want everybody to go home happy, unless they were being a jerk first.
Right. Like, the best revenge she could have is a happy marriage.
And let's hope, we're going to put that out there right now into the universe.
Right.
We hope she's having the best marriage ever.
we hope she's 18 years in by now.
Exactly. Everything's going great. Now, when you tell a joke or you feel like you're starting to bomb, in that moment, what goes through your mind?
I need to pivot, or I need to throw out one of my save lines. Like, I don't think I bomb anymore, really, because I have this stock of lines that I use when jokes don't go well. Like, one of them is, I like that one, fuck you.
Yeah.
Which
I bet you that's the one you use at corporates all the time.
Oh, all the time. Or that was funnier in my head. Or, I don't come at your place of employment and stare at you. Like, stupid things,
Yeah, easy save lines.
Yeah.
I've definitely, I don't know if I guess you could say I have a stock of them in the sense that I don't think of them that way. It comes out. But similar where you're like, oh, that was funnier when I wrote it, or I thought it was funny, and whatever it might be.
I gotta keep on working on that one.
Yeah, the popular save line, and this is definitely, I mean, most save lines are hacky. That's why they're stock. But the one that you hear the most is, well, that's a new joke.
And I think that's honesty. And
It is. You're right. It is honesty a lot of times.
Right. I once heard Rich Voss go, I gotta come up with a punchline for these jokes, which I thought was hilarious.
I'm just like up there. I'm all set up. No punches.
I have this idea for a joke where it'll work better as a skit, but the joke is basically that it's a comic who ends all his bits with, I guess you had to be there.
That would be a funny sketch. That would be.
Right?
Just telling like the most boring stories, and then it just ends with, guess you had to be there.
Yes, you had to be there. And I want someone in the corner going, "Ba-dum-bum."
That would be a pretty good sketch for sure. I like to talk about writing process. What's your writing process like? And for you, what is your evolution of a joke? I know you said you do a lot of ad-libbing and crowd work now, but when you actually sit down for writing, or
it's hard, right? Because we don't always wait for inspiration to strike. Like sorry, I'm taking off my shirt.
We're getting to that point. We're stripping.
Yeah,
he started it off. He said he was going to take them off, and now here we are.
I wish you were here and could tweak my nipples. I really like that. So I like when I like writing with other people. I like just bouncing ideas off people. So that is one of my favorite things. Like I used to be in writing groups with a few people, and that was always fun.
Yeah,
because you're just throwing around ideas. Oh yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. We've met a couple times, and it's definitely getting me to actually think about writing more. I've got real laxed on that, so it's good. It's a good to get together with other people, because then I actually sit down and think about it.
I don't think I have as strong an ethic in that area as I used to, but like I love when jokes just come to me, and then I'll either say them out loud to who's ever there, or write them down. Like this one time I was at my parents' house, and my wife was sitting across from me, and it popped into my head, and I go, I decided I'm going to open up a domestic violence clinic shelter. I'm going to call it Black Eyes Matter. And I thought that was the funniest shit. White crowds don't always love that joke. Black crowds usually always love that joke.
I could see that. I feel like when it comes to that, like white crowds are very hypersensitive about a lot of things. Yeah.
And one of my black comic friends, I did that joke at an open mic once, and one of my black comic friends walked up there and he goes, I got a tag for you. And he's like, and then this white guy comes in and he's like, all eyes matter. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Oh man, that's a great tag, actually.
Right.
It's a great tag for that joke. Well, we're gonna start wrapping up. I always have my guests tell a story about bombing. At the end, I like them to talk about one of their favorite gigs that they've gotten to do. I mean, and it doesn't have to be like the best and most glamorous gig you ever got. Just one of your favorite gigs that you've done.
I recently, it was at the Stress Factory where I went up in front of, like, I got asked to do a show, and it was just magic from the time I stepped on stage to the minute I got off, and it was beautiful. And like, that was one of the best times because everything just worked. Like, the crowd was loving me. I had a little bit of crowd work, but not too much. And like, even the ad libs I said just flowed. Like, I got up on stage, and I at some point I go, I'm married. I know what y'all are thinking. God, all the good ones get away. I've never said that before, but it kills.
Just came out and it killed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful.
When you sorry to interrupt, but when you
No.
ad lib like that and something works, do you try to incorporate it into your act?
Oh
again?
yeah. I years and years ago, I did this gig where, like, again, I was killing, and in the middle, I told a joke, and I'm disabled, like I said, and I call myself a cripple just to like take back the word type thing. And I told a joke, and the audience ooh, they go ooh, and I started smiling, and I turned around and did this voice into the mic with the back to the audience. That was dirty and mean. We don't like our cripples dirty and mean. We like them clean and in institutions. and and like that, the laugh I got from that was, I'm like, I gotta remember that. And now every once in a while I'll bring it out when I get so that's like one of the stock saves for when a joke doesn't go as you thought.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, the last question that I always have, and this doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped for comedy, but we have the Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist. Any song that gets you pumped for whatever. It can be comedy, it can be to exercise, it can be just something that gets you wanting to get up and move.
Lose Yourself
Lose Yourself
by Eminem.
I think it might already
8
be
Mile.
on the playlist.
It's a beautiful one. Like, it gets my soul going. It's also like, I feel like this is my second time around. I feel like I had the magic once before, and then I let it all go. And so this song brings me back and lets me remember I could make it again.
That's a great viewpoint for a song. Good, very inspirational.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, well, where can people find you?
funnymanmike.com, instagram.com, funnyman Mike Cotayo, that's Cotayo, and TikTok, funnyman Mike C. Everything's Funnyman Mike, and then there's a little variation on the end.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I had so much fun, man. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed our conversation with Mike and would like to see him perform live, you can catch him at the Complex in North Carolina on March 10th.
It's the art of bombing.
And that was our conversation with Mike Cotayo. A lot of great information there. There's so many things that we could take away from that conversation, but obviously we don't have time. We can't keep people here all day. I mean, we're not Joe Rogan. We can't podcast for 4 hours and expect people to come back next week.
Yes.
If they had to listen to 4 hours of us, we'd be done.
Yeah.
Suddenly we'd be off all the charts across the world.
We got to hold on to that number 2 spot in Malawi, baby.
Yes, we
got to
do.
keep it tight around here.
We absolutely do.
Interesting. You know, one of the things that I thought was relevant in our conversation with Mike was just the balance of, speaker versus comedian. That's resonated with me in particular.
Yeah, same here. I've thought about trying to put together, I don't know, like a speaking type program, if you will, I guess. I don't know how you even describe it. I mean, I guess put together a speech that would be that I could take into businesses, I guess.
Exactly. And I've found that, for the most part, comedians, when they come to corporate gigs, they always say they're up and down. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. And it's inconsistent because we're trying to fit a medium that belongs at a comedy show into a thing that's not a comedy show. And so that's going to get you different results. Sometimes it's going to be amazing. But every time you're always walking into a situation where everybody knows each other. They all know the inside jokes. You're an outsider. And sometimes you can break through that and sometimes you can't. So my solution to it has always been to, okay, look, you want me to come do comedy at your event. Fantastic. How about I bring something people can learn and make that funny?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about leadership, setting goals, dealing with failure, hiring and firing. Lots of different things that actually apply to your situation as a talk, but the jokes are all there. They're just baked into the talk. So let's all get behind something we can now all acknowledge and all be insiders for. And once we're all headed in that direction, I can come around and tell all the jokes and really get people excited. Or something else that I've done that's successful is I'm going to host a trivia game. I'm going to work with the people ahead of time to find out what kinds of questions you want to throw at them, whether or not they know the workplace or, those different types of things. And I can do a great job hosting your quiz show. And I even can bring some tools to set it up. And so what they get is an hour and a half of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody enjoys themselves, but it's not just me trying to carry everything. It's more fitted to a corporate environment. And I think that gets missed a lot when comics go on the road and try to do corporate stuff. It's just jokes. But what's the reason they fall into that trap is because that's what they say that they want.
Yeah. Well, and it's also harder because when you're doing corporate gigs, you're going in cold as well. It's not like it's not like there's time to build the momentum, because usually, like even with a comedy show, the first comic has to go up cold, but they know that that's their job. They're prepared for that. They also don't usually have to do a ton of time. They're going up. They're basically changing the mood. They're telling the audience, hey, this is what's going to happen. It's time to get your mind ready for comedy. I'm going to go through the housekeeping. I'm going to tell you a few things, get you so your mind is ready for comedy, and then the show continues. And when you're at most corporate events, it's one comic. So when it's strictly stand-up comedy, you have to go up there, and whoever's introducing you, if they even give you an introduction, doesn't know how to introduce a comedian or they're just, all right, it's time for comedy. Here's your comedian. Exactly. And then they say your name, or maybe they'll read your bio or whatever it is. So you definitely need to have that, it's definitely good to do what you're saying, where you can provide something else to help make it a good show. Now, I would be interested to know, when it comes to, if you were going to go and you were going to do like, okay, I'm going to make a program or a speech that I can market to businesses. Say it's on leadership, and that's you're going in as a speaker, but you're going to make it funny. What kind of techniques are you doing to make that speech funny? Are you, doing a couple talking points and then you throw in a joke here and there, or maybe you throw in an anecdote that happened to you, that, like, maybe if you're a storyteller and then you're basically doing this funny story, or what would be your technique for that?
Yeah. It's not too far off from what you're saying, Dan. Like, there's content, right? And let's say the content is on having accountability for your people, and how giving people more control over what they're doing allows them to be more accountable for their work. Let's say that's the content, and you want to deliver the content. So part one's the content. What am I saying? Part two are statistics that back that content up, that make it, okay, this is a third voice that's coming in and saying, okay, well, successful companies with accountable people do X, Y, and Z. And this is a study from research that has been created. So that's part two, is backing it up with the facts. Part three is the joke or the story. And so mixing and matching those three rotating pieces and doing that in different fun ways is what gets people going, and just kind of coming at it from that mindset.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that we could almost do a whole Between Bombs episode just on that subject. Yeah. Trying to prepare a speech and add that humor to it, because you're right. Yeah, I mean, there's different components to it, and I didn't even think about, there's three different types of content that you need to add to this, and then it's a matter of, you got to arrange it in a certain way so that it makes sense, and then be able to come to a conclusion. So yeah, that's
right.
And it, again, with that, when it comes to corporate, doing corporate comedy and corporate events, it's all about, asking questions, doing all the things. But again, you have to, and this is another thing that we talked about with Mike, was taking responsibility. If you go into a scenario and you didn't ask the right questions and you don't deliver a good show, is that on them or is that on you? And a lot of times it is on you, whether you want to admit it or not, because you didn't ask the right questions, or you just didn't have the right skill set to ask the right questions.
That's right. I think always starting with yourself. And every comic we've ever had on the show says that they record their sets pretty much. Yeah. And most of them don't listen. And they don't try to use those tools to get better. But most of them know to do it. And so I think, first of all, listening back to something and saying, okay, what could I have done? Knowing that there are circumstances. And I think we had a comic on the show recently that was like, well, I was listening back to it and I heard that it, no one could hear me. No wonder, yep. So you're going to see, circumstances that are not under your control, but there's nothing you can do about those things. And so just focusing on that isn't going to help you get better. So yes, things happen that aren't under your control. And sometimes, you're in front of a difficult crowd, but what can you have done better? Yep. Is there any, if there's not, move on to the next thing. But is there a lesson?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I think, it's one part trying to listen back to your sets and kind of figure out what happened, and another just being aware and taking the time to be thorough when you're trying to book these kind of gigs, especially corporate gigs, because that's the worst thing. If you go and do a bad corporate gig, especially a lot of comedians too, they're not getting booked directly through their websites. They're getting booked usually on either a third party website or through a booking agency. And in those capacities, the people that are booking you have the ability to leave a review. And if you do, if you put on a bad show and they give you a bad review, you're not going to get booked for other things. You need to really, be careful with that, because, you got to put on a good show to get that good review, or you're going to, screw yourself, shoot yourself in the foot, and you're not going to be able to get more corporate gigs going forward. Or at least it'll be a lot harder to get those corporate gigs.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, with that too, with corporate comedy, as long as we're talking about this, is all these talking points and these takeaways from this episode all kind of revolve around clean comedy, because we're talking about corporate gigs, we're talking about doing corporate comedy or speaking events, things like that. You have to be clean. But another thing where you should, even if you're the dirtiest comic, you should be able to do a clean set, at least a TV clean set, and have that ready and, in the chamber and ready in case you get that opportunity to be on TV.
That's right. Yeah. I think that's the one difference, right? Like, you guys talk about this in the interview, be who you are. And like, clean comedy chooses you sometimes.
That's what happened to me.
That's what happened. Exactly. You weren't trying.
I wasn't trying to be a clean comedian.
I'm going to be a clean because if you were trying to do that, it wouldn't have been authentic if that wasn't really the path you were going to go down. And unless you're like, look, I want to speak at churches, then that's your call, and you have to fit your comedy to that.
Yep.
But otherwise, your voice is authentic to you, and people can tell if you're a clean comic who's trying to be really boo, they can see through it, even if they don't know you.
Oh yeah, so absolutely.
It picks you.
I'll touch on that. I mean, that happened to me, and we talked about it on another episode of the podcast, where I got booked. I got booked for, it was at a festival actually, and I got put on the blues show. And so I have material that's dirty, But when I went, after I got done with that set, I was not pleased with that set because I was like, wow, I'm really trying to force myself to be dirty now. And the audience was not with me. And I think it goes back to what you're talking about, being authentic. And, and if you're not, the audience can see that. And that's exactly what happened in that scenario. They could tell that, oh, this guy isn't normally a dirty comic. Like he's trying way too hard to be dirty.
Exactly. And over time, you realize, well, this is the stuff that hits. And you slowly start to write towards that voice until it fully becomes, and that's what you turn into. And so I'm the same way, Dan. I definitely have some stuff I can do that'll hit in bars. That's about being.
Oh, same here. I mean,
making bad decisions, but at the end of the day, if you want to make money in this business, you are going to have to be able to work clean. That's the difference. You can't say that about being blue or being dirty.
Yep. And like I said, we've talked about this plenty of times before. It's good to have all kinds of different things in your in the toolbox or your tool belt, however you want to describe it. At the end of the day, you need to be versatile. You need to be able to be flexible, and you need to be able to perform in different environments, because different environments are going to call for different things. Like you said, if you're performing in a bar, you might have to go a little more lewd just to keep the bar folks' attention. If you're doing a corporate event, obviously you got to be clean. If you're going to be on late night TV, got to have a clean set. So it's just good to be versatile, because the more versatile you are, the more you can perform in all these different scenarios. It opens you up to a lot of different markets. Now, if you're just trying to stay in that corporate type market or the clean market or even the church market, obviously you want to stay away from doing the lewd type shows, because that goes into your branding and how you're branding yourself. Now, one thing, we were talking about how we just kind of evolved into doing clean comedy, and that's true. I still don't label myself as a clean comic. I label myself as a comedian. Yes, I do write clean. I tend to write clean. I try not to use profanity. I try not to use crude and gross subjects. I try not to punch down. Like, I'm purposely trying to, cater my writing to that. But at the end of the day, I'm just, being a comedian. I mean, to me, there's certain topics that, I just don't do because it just doesn't fit my personality. But it's not because I'm on some high, it's not like a morality stance or I'm, better than anybody else. That's just me as a person. I just don't, and it just doesn't fit my character. So I don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes what you're doing, you have to read the room, and every once in a while you'll be in a room where people are drinking and they're getting rowdy, and your jokes are hitting, but they hit just a little bit harder when you drop an S-bomb, F-bomb in there. and that, I threw a couple extra ingredients in at a show I was at recently, and I definitely just kind of put a couple of jokes over the top. But yeah, obviously I couldn't do it too much because that's not me.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. They would have known I was trying to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've found too, for me, one observation I've noticed about myself is that when I start doing poorly, especially in a scenario like if I'm at a bar show or that kind of, or a brewery or whatever, where profanity's fine, I don't have to be clean. But if I start feeling like I'm bombing, or even at an open mic, I tend to swear more.
Yeah.
I've noticed that
if I'm not comfortable with my material, I tend to lean on that. I'm, just in life, more of a vulgar person, unless I'm around too. Kids or whatever. I cuss. Yeah. That's how I am, and so I fall back on just that in the same circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all right. We'd like to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about? Weigh in on this. If you want to weigh in on some of the talking points that we were talking about today on this episode, just join our Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. It's, there's no cost. It isn't a thing you have to pay for. You just say you want to join, and as long as you're not some bot, or a jerk, we're going to let you in and be, part of the group. That's the Bomb Squad, Art of Bombing Bomb Squad Facebook group. Yeah, find that or find the link. Come join us. Let's let's talk about what we're talking about. We got a great episode lined up for you next week. We're going to be joined. It's kind of a spur of the moment. We just put it together. It's as long as, I always worry about putting things out there because I'm like, oh, what happens if something happens? But I'm still going to say it anyway. We're scheduled to record. Just know that something could change and it might not happen as I'm about to state. But as long as everything goes as planned, next week we will be joined by Adam Mamawala. Fantastic comedian from New York, been on BET, been on Comedy Central. Looking forward to this conversation that is yet to be recorded. By the time this comes out this week, it should have been recorded. So, but remember, in podcast world, time doesn't matter. We are the future. We are the past. We are the present. And that's going to do it for this week. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
It's the art of bombing.